Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 31st episode of the Zicast. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Ziax, and today I'm joined by music connoisseur Liam Chen.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks
Yeah,
for having me on, Ryan.
of course, of course. I'd like to shout out episode 3 guest Ryan Agnello for TDing, who's
Woo!
also my LA roommate. And now we're back.
There he is.
And now we're back in Hamden.
Yep, back.
And
Home
and
base.
you had your own LA experience too
I
that we're
did.
gonna get into, Liam. So, and you are a fan of the Zicast.
Absolutely.
You know
yeah.
what we do here. So, how about we get into things and you tell us a bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Liam Chen, like Ryan said. I'm a senior FTM major. I am the AP for hashtag that. And yeah, just a guy around campus, I guess.
Sweet, sweet. And where are you from?
I'm from New Jersey, Wyckoff. It's North Jersey. I know
Awesome.
that was a debate. I was watching Ryan's show the other day of whether North Jersey or South Jersey, Central Jersey exists, but
Yeah,
I'm a strong North Jersey guy.
I respect that. I respect that. I think it's whatever you think it is.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and AP means associate producer.
Yeah, sorry for those.
For those who are unaware.
Yeah.
And yeah, awesome, awesome. And to kind of get into the topics, I'd like to ask you where your interest in music and film stems from.
I think a lot of my interests with music, but definitely film, comes from my parents. I just remember being like a little kid, watching movies on the couch with your parents. It's just like the best thing, and especially as a kid when you watch movies, it's definitely a different experience than watching movies now because, with the knowledge I have now, you kind of think of things through like a filmmaker's perspective, but being a kid, just like watching a film, like having like it feels completely real. Like you're not even thinking about, they did this to do that shot. So I think just the magic of watching movies as a kid and that whole experience definitely just carried with me through my life. And then I think going a little bit further into life, things like YouTube. I was a big stop motion kid. I remember back in the day, like all the Lego stop motion channels that were out there. I was definitely super into that. But yeah, I think it's just something that's stuck with me through, from being a young kid just up until now.
Yeah, because movies are very formative in that way.
Exactly, yeah.
When you watch them with that wonder, like you said, like with your parents, and then you grow up and then you become a film student, and then you realize all the ins and out.
Exactly, yeah.
All the tricks. And I kind of ask you, like, also, like, I know you're big into music. Like, where did you really get into music on, like, a kind of deeper level?
Again, I think it's like one of those things, being a kid, just being in the car listening to music with your parents. I was a hockey kid just from a young age, so driving to practice with my dad, he had the little iPod that he'd put in the plug into the car and just have all the songs on there. And so I think back then I was more just, these are some songs my dad likes, I'm into it. But I think when I kind of started exploring music myself was probably more like early high school around that time. And I think that's just another thing with film and with music that's kind of kept me into both of them is like the exploration aspect, if that makes any sense. Just like there's kind of like a whole world just that you can dive into, and it's just something to explore, and I love exploring. And on that level, just finding movies you've never heard of, not to sound pretentious, but like it's cool finding like an obscure thing. It's like nobody really knows about this, whether it's music or film. It kind of makes you feel a little bit special, I guess, or you're experiencing like a special thing. So definitely that.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean, especially in regards to music.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you know, like, underground music and stuff that people don't, like, really listen to, and you really like it, and you, like, put it on your story.
Oh, yeah.
And you feel like a DJ. You
Exactly,
feel like a god.
Dude. With that, I try not to be too pretentious with it, because it's like you can definitely get to the point where people are like, oh my god, you've never heard of this? You don't even know music or whatever. But I think it's just cool being able to share. Like that's another thing that's big with me, with music and movies, just sharing things like, this is something I find cool and other people might enjoy it too.
Yeah. Yeah, so like when you put the Smith song on your story and people get interested. And of course we kind of got to know each other working in student media. So I'd like to ask you kind of what led you to student media, and then like kind of how your experiences there kind of helped take you to LA as well.
Yeah, so I think definitely being part of student media Q30 was just a huge thing in getting me out to LA. I remember being like a freshman and like always knowing about Q30, but I never got really involved initially. It was just kind of I was focused on school stuff. I had my friends. I'd like doing stuff with them, but it was just kind of something that I never initially jumped into. And it wasn't actually until my junior year that I think I talked to Ryan actually about I like was just asking him some questions about Q30, and he was like, "Oh yeah, definitely just come to one of the meetings, and we'll just you'll get an idea for what it's like." And so beginning of junior year, I went to I think it was one of the rundowns for hashtag that, and I've kind of just been there ever since. It was just such a welcoming environment, and I think that definitely helped propel me into LA, because it's definitely like you're jumping into something new. You don't really know, there's information out there, but you're kind of you're taking a leap of faith a little bit, something new people. And I think it definitely got me more in like a collaborative mindset, just working with other people, because obviously we do film classes, you work with other students, but it's definitely just a different environment when you're doing it outside of like a typical classroom setting.
And that really brings back a lot of memories, because now that I'm remembering, I'm thinking back to like the Student Media Summit last year. Were you there?
I don't think I was. I think the first thing I went to was that rundown, as far as, but I could have been. Honestly, I just have a terrible memory.
Yeah, because I was thinking back to, I think we met at the hashtag rundown.
Yeah, definitely.
I know you were definitely there, and at the Student Media Summit last year is where I met Ryan, which was a funny thing to think on that. We became roommates in LA.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of like the funny like domino effects.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's what's so cool too, because with everybody just being in film, or at least that we're around for the most part, it's like you definitely get that collaborative experience where it's like this person is just someone I go to class with, but it's like, oh, now I'm working with them on things, we're creating shows together, in your case going out all the way to LA and doing things out there. So I think it's just super cool how all that stuff works out.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get into LA, because obviously QU in LA has been a very predominant topic on this podcast, but usually it was before I was going there and I was trying to learn stuff about it. Then it was when I was there, and then now I'm back. So it's fun to like look back on it and reflect on it. So I'd like to ask you about your own experience there, since you were the group before Ryan and I's, and kind of what that taught you.
Yeah, it was definitely, I had a great experience out in LA. It was definitely, like I said before, like a leap of faith, going out there, you're kind of, not sacrificing a lot, but, it's definitely like a big adjustment to make and a big decision. So I think going out there, it was a little nerve-wracking. You never know. And with my group, it was a little bit different than you guys. Like, obviously, you knew each other before going in, but when I went out, it was me and two other people, Carl Brooks and Maya Huggins. I don't know if you know them. They're 2 years older than us, so you might not have interacted with them much. But
I know of them.
You know of them.
Yeah.
But I didn't know them at all before going there, so it's like I'm going to a new place with people I don't really know. But I kind of just went out with a good mindset, and I think things just turned out like better than I ever thought they would. And I definitely say for people going out, just kind of go out with that mindset. Just, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to learn things. And you're kind of setting yourself up for a good time that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And on that note, like, can you tell us a bit about your internship and kind of what you did for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So the company that I interned for was Tough Gong Worldwide. It's a label that was started by Bob Marley. So for whatever camera's on right now. For those that don't know, he's a reggae singer, pretty famous in the 70s, died in the early 80s. But he has a son, Ziggy, who runs the label now. So I worked for him, him and his company. And, we did a lot of, or I did a lot of like promotional stuff and things like that. But I think what was most exciting about working for them was that they had a movie that came out while I was out there, the One Love movie, which is like a Bob Marley biopic. And, even though I wasn't like shooting on the movie or anything, it was all done beforehand. It was just super cool to have like something big like that going on at a company I was working for out there. So, I think my experience there, that definitely helped to boost it.
Yeah, because on my second episode here, I had Grace Doyle on, who also interned there.
Yep.
And she talked about how like they were filming the movie at the time when she was out there.
Yeah.
So it's funny to hear like she was out there when they were filming it and you were out there when it was actually released.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of funny timeline there, or fun timeline, I should say. And like, yeah, I'm sure working for them as a big music fan was such a cool experience.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, going in, it was interesting because, like, people think of me, like, as this music guy, but I really did. I mean, I knew Bob Marley, obviously, beforehand, but I wasn't, like, jamming on him all the time.
Yeah.
But I think going out there, working for them, he was mostly just an artist I didn't dive into, but I definitely gained a lot more respect for him and his music and like what he did. And I think that was also a cool part of the experience, just kind of getting to learn the history behind a company like that and where they came from. And I'm really glad I worked with them because of that, because, it's always cool to work for a company that, does things. And, but I think a history is like something that I really enjoy in companies like that, just a really cool background.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Grace was able to meet him. Were you able to meet or interact with Ziggy at all?
I did, actually.
Yeah.
It was interesting because when I was out there, they were actually renovating their main office where they typically work out of. So I was working for the most part out of Ziggy's house.
Oh, it's so sick.
So I'm like in the dude's house. He's walking around. I'm the intern, so I'm not bugging him with a million questions. And, he's kind of doing his own thing. But, yeah, I'd just be typing on my computer doing stuff. And there goes Ziggy. Right past me. What's up, man? Grab me something from the fridge.
Yeah.
He was a super cool dude, too.
Yeah.
Like, I was, not that I would have thought anything else of him. He just seemed super chill in general. But, yeah, it was just kind of surreal. Like, what's going on right now? This famous dude's just walking past me in his socks and, going to his living room.
Yeah, because I've heard that he's a very cool, like, family-oriented guy.
Oh, yeah, totally family-oriented. Yeah, it was, not just him, his whole family. They all live there, obviously. And, his wife, she runs basically most of the business side of things, or at least is like a big part of that. And she couldn't have been nicer. She was so nice. So I was working with her for the most part. And yeah, they were just so accommodating, just, wanting me to have a good experience. So I'm really glad that I worked for them.
Yeah, awesome. And that's like one of the really cool things like about LA is like how you could be doing such incredible things in such like low key places and like laid back environments.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know Maya and Carl, they both had internships doing more like script coverage and that stuff. But even like, they told me when they went into the office, it's like, it's not like you're going into some sterile little cubicle. It's totally like a collaborative environment, super chill. And I think that's like what's so cool about LA just in general, being the East Coasters we are, we know it can get a little bit uptight and I don't know, stuff like that around here, but it was definitely a way more relaxed environment. Not to say that you can't have that experience in LA, but I think on the whole, it's definitely a more chill vibe.
Yeah. Yeah, I say like on the East Coast we're a bit more fierce.
A little, yeah, more fierce, definitely.
More faster, fierce, like those two F words.
Exactly.
I feel that that's what applies to the East Coast. For West Coast, it's a bit more laid back. There's a lot of variance in environments and kind of how kind of workplaces go, and that leads us well into kind of our next topic, which is really what you liked about LA and some of the favorite things you did there.
What I liked about LA, I mean, obviously there's just the weather. I think that was the big thing for me, especially going in the spring. It was pretty cold back home, so it was nice to just once in a while check the weather out back home, see everyone freezing their butts off and being stepping outside in my shorts and t-shirt. But I think just the vibe of the city, it's definitely very industry oriented, and I think what I mean when I say that. It's just cool. Like I had so many like great experiences just walking down the street, and just talking to a random person. It's like, oh hey, this person's involved in film or something around film, and it was just it felt like the movies a little bit, where
Yeah.
it's like, this is obviously we weren't in Hollywood, but it just felt very, what you would imagine it would be like. And I think just like definitely the vibe of people out there was, I don't know, it was good. I enjoyed it. I'm sorry, can you reiterate the question? I just want to make sure I'm not missing any parts.
Yeah, kind of like what you liked about LA and like any of like your favorite things.
Favorite things too. Okay. So I think my favorite thing was just kind of seeing a lot of things that you see in the movies. Like, we went to the Hollywood sign, going down Hollywood Boulevard. I'm trying to think of the name of the song. There's like this Tom Petty song that I'm thinking of, and I saw the street that it was like named after, and just being like, oh, that's like the street from the song, stuff like that. It was just definitely cool being, in such like a historic place, because around here, I guess I'm very close to New York City, so I kind of, people think of New York City as like the big city and stuff, but I feel like it kind of has, it lost like that specialness to me because it's just there all the time. So it was kind of cool just being in another historic city with so much history and stuff like that.
Yeah, and both entertainment hubs, LA and New York, but very, very different. Obviously, we've gotten into the East Coast, West Coast things.
Yeah,
we've gotten into that a lot on the Zicast.
Definitely.
A lot of discussions about that, but that is so cool. Like I know we talked a little bit about your experiences. Like, didn't you like meet someone on a bus or something and have
on a bus?
I think we talked about.
Maybe, I'm not sure. I didn't really take the bus too much when I was out there. I was fortunate enough to have a car, but I definitely did have some interesting interactions. There's definitely some interesting people on the street out there in LA. I'm sure you saw.
Oh yeah.
But I think as far as like experiences, the program is just run so well by Andres, as you know. So we got to do like a lot of cool things. A lot of museums. I'm sure that you guys went to too. But actually through my work, I got to do like a lot of cool things too. Ziggy was on, was it Jimmy Fallon? No, it was Jimmy Kimmel.
Oh.
So we got to go to like, they were filming like his musical segment that was going to be on the show, and then he was going to go and be interviewed later in the day. So we got tickets to go see like him performing and stuff. It was really cool getting to do that stuff. I personally got to have the experience of going to a rehearsal that he was doing because he was going on tour while I was out there. Maya and Carl didn't get to go because it was more of like a business thing.
Yeah.
But that was a super cool experience. I actually got to go with the guys and like go to the warehouse, pick up all their amps and guitars and stuff, and like load everything in. So I had my little roadie experience there. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's just so many things I'm like not thinking of off the top of my head. But it was just, thinking back, it's like it's a blur now. But I think that's just because it was just every day was something new.
Yeah, I was about to say the same exact thing. Like it is a blur. Like it's such a special experience, and you get home and it's all like fuzzy in your mind because it was just so much, so quickly, like relatively, like a couple months, and it was just like so. Just incredible. Like how was those rehearsals, like getting to see them all perform? And
I think it was just like super eye-opening for me, just being like, wow, these are like professional musicians. Like, when you go to a concert, you see people just step up on stage and they just start playing, but it's like, obviously that bands rehearse, otherwise how would they know the material? But just kind of getting to see behind the scenes in that aspect. And that's definitely something that like I know you want to get into the future stuff in a little bit, but that's something I could definitely see myself doing, like kind of like the more entertainment filming aspect of like live concerts and stuff. I'm like super into that. So I guess just kind of getting a peek into that world was, even though I don't plan on setting up amplifiers or anything for a career, it was just kind of cool just to see what goes on behind the scenes and hear them rehearse songs like 2 feet away from them sitting on the couch. It was definitely something that I'm not going to forget anytime soon.
Oh yeah, I bet. And I mean, like we talked about like how dominant like film is, and you could find film crews like everywhere in Los Angeles. But to think of like being a part of like a band in that way and getting to see them perform, like that's such a unique experience that I'm sure like even a lot of QU and LA kids aren't able to experience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think just having a strong musical interest definitely made that cooler because, you know, for some people they're more into being on set and PAing and doing that thing, and I definitely think that stuff's cool. But I just being around the music, that's like totally me. That's for me.
Yeah. And did you go to any One Iota events or anything like that? Like, did you use that to get into anything?
Say that again. Like, what do you mean one iota?
Oh, it's like a website where you could get like free tickets to events.
Oh, I think we tried that a couple times. Actually, it was interesting because when I went to Jimmy Kimmel, they were supposed to give us tickets afterwards to go to like the main filming of the Ziggy like interview he was gonna do on the show, but we weren't able to get them somehow. But then we did go on that website and look, but we weren't able to get them. But no, I think most of the stuff we did was mostly planned by Andres. Something, I mean, I kind of alluded to it just by saying who was in my group, but there was only 3 of us out there. So having a small group, I think Andres was definitely able to just not put more stuff together, but get us into like different things that, like, for example, with your group, it would just be a little bit harder because you guys had more people. So we got to go to the Bad Friends live event that they had, which was so cool to go to. Andres got up on stage. He did what did he do? He did like a dance or something. It was super funny, like, because he was just sitting next to us, and then I was like, where'd he go? And then I like look up on stage, and he's just like hitting some moves up there. I'm like, that's incredible. Yeah, just going to that stuff. I'm trying to think of some other smaller things he got us into because of our group. We got to go to the Dune. It wasn't the premiere, but it was like the first day of them showing it, and it was on, what is it, like the 35 millimeter?
Yeah, the big IMAX.
Yeah, on the big screen, dude. That was so cool. And I actually hadn't seen Dune up until that. So like the night before, I'm sitting there like, I'm like, oh, I got to sit through this 3-hour film. But I think that was perfect because it just, I was like, at the end, I'm like, that was amazing. I'm so excited to see part 2. And then, finally getting to go there and see it on the big screen. It was an awesome experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember now that's jogging my memory, seeing the photo of you guys at the Bad Friends thing.
Yeah.
Andres with the take your kids to work day that he does.
Yeah, we made the Instagram. It was definitely an honor to get on the fancy Instagram page.
Yeah. And that's one of the really cool things with Andres, because we know him as like, Professor Andres, but then you see him as his alter ego, Fancy V.
Exactly.
Up on stage. Like that's hilarious.
Yeah, and it was, sorry to cut you off there, but it was just cool, like walking around outside, like people would just and I think you guys had a similar experience, but like just walking around and people were like, oh my god, that's Andres, and just like running up to him like, whoa, I feel like I'm with like the president right now or something. It was crazy. Yeah,
he got recognized a few times while we were there, and it's cool to hear that you guys got to see Dune Part 2, which would have been seeing it on that big screen, because Ryan and I were able to see Deadpool and Wolverine there with the group with Andres. Like, that would have been so sick to see Dune Part 2 with how beautiful that film looks.
The shots were just, like, they hit, like, I'm sure, I mean, I haven't seen it, actually, since, but, the visuals were just incredible, and just seeing them on that big screen, I think, made them just hit, like, 10 times harder.
Yeah, that whole, like, Universal City Walk area, like, that whole place is so cool.
Yeah. You guys went to Universal, right?
We did, yeah. We did the studio tour. We went in the park, obviously, and then, we saw Deadpool and Wolverine around the later part of our time there.
You have fun on the escalators going up and down.
Yeah, that's a trek. Dude, that's a long journey.
It's a bizarre layout that they have there. It's so weird. Like, I feel like I'm in like the mall or something. Yeah. But like, it's these for those out there that don't know, Universal has like, basically it's like I guess it's like tiered. I don't know how if that's how I would describe it, but like, you go up and down these like massive escalators, and it's just like, it's so weird having these outdoor escalators going up and down. But yeah, it was a really cool place, and Mario Land, obviously. Yeah, that was a highlight for me.
Sick. We weren't able to go on the new Mario ride, but we kind of walked around that area. Sent a lot of pictures to our friend Sean Velukovic, who's I don't know if you know, but he's big into like Nintendo stuff like that. So that was a really sick place to see, and like even Disney, like our Disney trip, we stayed from like rope down, like the beginning of the day to the very end.
We unfortunately didn't get to go to Disney, but Yeah, I heard you guys had a good time there going on the rides. And had you been to Disneyland before then?
I've been to it in Florida so many times, but I had never been in California.
That's so cool. What do you think? Which one's your favorite?
I mean, Florida just has more,
Yeah.
but California, it's cool because everything's like close. Like they're just right across from each other, the parks. So, like California is more accessible, but Florida just has more, like similar for Universal.
Gotcha. That's cool though.
Yeah, and kind of moving onwards, I'd like to ask you, like after your experience in LA, like would you return there, and any advice you have for others who would want to go?
As far as returning, I mean, it's definitely in the cards. You know, I think the great thing about QU in LA is it makes that transition easier, and I know that's something that Andres is always talking about, and like, you know, wanting to build a community out there. And I think the program just does it so well. It kind of gets you familiar with the area, the industry, you know, the types of people that are, you know, kind of important to look out for. But I think a piece of advice I would give would be definitely talk to as many people as you can, because like I said before, like just talking to like random people on the street, like you'll just find someone who it's like you think like around here it would just be some random person walking down the road, but like there I met like some dude who like does I don't know if this is all he does, but he was telling me he does like treadmill commercials and stuff like that. Like he's the dude that's running on the treadmill, so I guess he's just like has some super endurance where he can like run for 30 shots or something. But yeah, just like talking to everybody, you know, especially at your internship that you have, because I feel like, you know, obviously it's the whole thing with your podcast. Everyone has a story.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think you can apply that to your real life, because, you know, out there, people definitely want to see young people doing well. You know, I'm sure there's companies out there that, you know, kind of, you know, you just use interns, but I'd say on the whole, they're definitely wanting to teach you things, because, you know, we're the next generation of people that are coming in, so it's very much like looking out for each other and, you know, building those connections. So even if you don't end up moving out there, you can just take so much away from it. But if you do move out there, you know, you have all these new contacts, which I think is super important.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, because that program really does just help you grow. Because like something Andres has said to us, like that, you know, artists are usually introverted, but you kind of have to be extroverted to really make an impact on like others and like really put yourself out there. And that's a great thing. Like, and even the program teaches you a lot of like adulting skills. Like,
Totally.
Like I was meal prepping in a way that I had never done before. Like I remember when I was going out there, I was texting you to ask you like advice for like, how did you manage like, you know, all the Ralph's trips, you know, which is a grocery store out there for those who don't know. So it's like, you know, I buy the 6-pack of chicken. I have chicken for 6 nights, like stuff like that. And planning like transportation. So like, it's great for just like putting yourself, you know, being like a fish out of water, so to speak, and like really putting yourself in a situation where you just have to make a lot of decisions like for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, yeah, like you were saying, that's just the good part. It's like you're doing all this adulting stuff, but you still kind of have like a little bit of a safety net, you know, like you're not just throwing yourself completely out there. So I think it's a really good way to just prepare to, you know, even just in general, like growing up, you know, living on your own, doing stuff like that. But yeah, shout out Ralph's, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, great prices. That's a good piece of advice. If you're going out to LA and you're at Level, go to Ralph's. Don't go to Whole Foods.
Yeah.
Whole Foods is not it.
Yeah, it's very bougie.
It is,
Whole Foods, but it is very expensive.
If you're rich and you can afford it, go to Whole Foods. But Ralph's is like, it's a short walk and great prices. Great people standing outside of Ralph's.
Interesting is a great word. But yeah, very, like you said, very affordable, very accessible, being right there. So that definitely, that's the place to hit up.
Yep, definitely.
For those who are going. So to kind of get into things on the more personal note, like what are some things that people may not know about you, like fun facts?
I know. You sent me this question and I was like, man, what is something like, I don't know. I feel like I don't have a ton of fun facts. The only thing I could think of is that I used to be like super into mountain biking, and to an extent I still am, but like me and my friends growing up, like that's like all we would do. We just ride bikes all the time. And there's this, I was lucky enough to have this like very big mountain near me called Mountain Creek, and they had like downhill mountain biking, which is like you're basically riding down like the ski slopes and stuff, and they got jumps and all sorts of things set up, and I got like super into that. And I think that definitely also played into like my love of film and filming things and creating things, because you know, looking back, it's a little bit cringe, but we had like an Instagram page where we just make like edits, you know, like BMX or skateboard style, but you know, with like the fisheye lens and I think just creating stuff like that definitely got me into film stuff. So even though I'm a little bit past that now in my life, I think that definitely propelled me forward in wanting to do more film stuff. But yeah, I think that's probably something that most people don't really know, because I don't talk about it a lot or really, I don't know, post about any of that stuff anymore.
I mean, that sounds pretty sick to go out there biking, man. There's a lot of hills in California.
Oh yeah, definitely.
If you ever wanted to get back into that hobby, but we all kind of start somewhere, and sometimes our interests form off of others, like that you're like mountain biking. So like, how would you film that? Would it be like GoPro kind of stuff?
Yeah, definitely a lot of GoPro stuff. You know, I mean, I wasn't out there with like a professional camera. It was like, you know, just my iPhone. And, but I do remember at one point I bought like this, I don't even think it made anything look better at all, but I bought these like little lenses. You can like put, like you had to have a special phone case, and like you would screw the lens onto the phone case for your phone. So that's how I'd be doing like the fisheye and stuff before the 0.5 came out, obviously. And I would have like, you know, like weird, I don't even know what you would call them, lenses. They probably did absolutely nothing, but I think that's what's so cool about like phones and stuff nowadays, kids having phones, is like you're just able to create like, you know, with something that's just sitting in your pocket. You know, you don't need to have an entire crew. I mean, obviously, if you're creating something professionally, you still need to have a crew. But I think just the ability to just like pull out your phone and film something, that's huge, massive, like for people that are just coming up in film. So I'd say that really like helped shape my interest in creating things, even though they weren't like the best or the most professional. Just, you know, getting out and getting footage is just super fun, super cool.
Yeah. That's really film. It's just getting out and doing it, getting out and doing stuff. And like that's such a cool hobby to have, because it's just a way to be like outgoing and a way to like do something different. Like it's the first mountain biking story I've heard here. So that's really, really interesting. And kind of moving onwards, I know you said that we were going to get into future stuff, so here it is. Like, what are some of your hopes and dreams professionally or in general?
You know, being a senior, it's definitely coming up. That's in the back of the mind. You know, what are we doing now? Oh no. But, you know, I definitely would like to do something that just kind of crosses everything I'm interested in, you know, ideally. You know, obviously into music, into filming stuff, into editing. So I was thinking maybe something even in like a live production, like field, like people that film concerts and stuff like that. But, you know, I'm sure I'll be looking back at this podcast episode in like 10 years and being like, wow, I was so wrong about that. But, yeah, something like around that ideally. But, you know, I think I'm definitely open to things, you know, and especially with like, you know, in the back of my mind, potentially moving out to LA, there's just so many opportunities, and it's like, you just got to be ready to try stuff. You know what I mean? Like, even if it's something where you're like, I don't know if this is really my thing. You know, you never know. You go and try it and it'll just like totally click, or, you know, if it doesn't click, you do it and then you move on, and it's a learning experience. That's kind of the mindset I have on that.
Yeah. I was talking with my most recent guest, and we were kind of talking about how the film world is very like non-linear.
Yep.
And how things kind of can just happen and you just need to adapt. And I feel like that's kind of what's ahead of us. And like you talked about, like 10 years from now, I consider the Zicast kind of like a time capsule.
There you go. Absolutely.
So I think it'll be fun to look back on this, like
see how wrong I was.
See how wrong or right.
Yeah.
Or in the middle.
Exactly.
But as long I have a strong sense that you're going to end up quite all right. So I think that things will work out, and it's just going to be really, really exciting to see. But of course, our futures are kind of formed by our past and the things we like. I was trying to say something profound there.
That was profound.
I think it was pretty profound. So I'd like to ask you, like, some of your favorite music artists and like genres.
So as far as genres, looking at me, you could definitely tell I'm a rock guy, big into rock, metal, but I just kind of like, and this is gonna sound so dumb and vague, but I just like music that I think sounds good. I think, going back to earlier, first getting into music, like my dad, when I would listen to music with him, I'm very much like a playlist person. I don't know if you're like that, where it's like everything needs to be in a specific playlist for a certain vibe. But like my dad just had everything on like one playlist back then, and so it would be like, we'd be listening to like Metallica, then it would go into like Fergie or something really weird like that. So I think just like growing up like that, I'm kind of used to just like listening to music and just changing on a dime like that, and just whatever I'm feeling in the moment is what I listen to. But I'd say as far as like favorite artists, for metal, I'm definitely like a big fan of this band called Judas Priest. I'm not sure if you've heard of them. They're like they formed in like the 70s, but they're really like most popular in like the 80s, early 80s. They got the song "Breaking the Law." I don't know if you know that one.
Yeah, I know that one.
But yeah, I just love like that old school feel of like rock and metal. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's a little awkward now because I actually went to their show. I'm drawing a blank on the name of the venue, but it's literally just down the road here in Connecticut. And, it's everyone at the show is like a 50-year-old, 60-year-old dude, and I'm just sitting there like this young guy that's just into like old people music. But I think some other stuff like outside of that genre, I'm definitely big on like 90s rap. I love Nas, Redman, stuff like that. Stepping outside of that, I guess more popular music. This is like where I struggle the most because like with popular music, it's like I'm very much a song guy. Like I like certain songs, but I don't really dive deep into artists. So and then contemporary music, that's where I get like completely lost. Like when it comes to like if someone's like, "Oh, what's the hot new thing that just came out?" Unless it's like a band that I already know, I'm like, I have no idea. But yeah, I think I'm very just I know what I like with music. You know what I mean? I know when, like, right after listening to a song, did I like that or did I not like that? Things still grow on me, and I still like songs that I might not have liked initially, but I kind of have a sense of whether I'm going to like something or not just by listening to it once.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what you like.
Exactly.
Yeah, so the rock thing, you have a very like Keanu Reeves vibe going on.
I appreciate that.
That I sense. You got the Wayne's World hat on.
Yeah, thanks. With the hair, it's all matching and stuff. The black shirt.
Yeah, I'm surprised it took this long for me to reference that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a cool vibe you have going on, and like I think that's cool. You bring up liking that like old metal music. I mean, I guess you're an old soul, so to speak.
I definitely get that a lot. And again, not to be like too pretentious and be like, oh, if it's new, I won't listen to it. But I think like, just that era of music definitely like really connects with me. And I don't know, that's mostly what I'm listening to. I just find it super cool. Another thing that I love is just like the history of like, music and bands like that. And, I always love a good band, VH1 documentary, just seeing all the drama and stuff that's going on. So yeah, I'm super into that stuff for sure.
Yeah, and that tracks with the Tough Gong internship.
Yeah, exactly.
And then and of course you like movies as well.
This is true.
So I'd like to ask you like some of your favorite movies.
Now this is one I definitely had to write down because I was just like whenever someone asks me my favorite movies, I'm just like it's like I forget what a movie is sometimes. So I had to.
You just draw a blank. I know exact same feeling. Yeah.
So I definitely put this is in no particular order, but 2001: A Space Odyssey, just beautiful movie, like masterfully shot. I'm a big Kubrick guy, love him. The other films he's done too. I put Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I love that movie. That's like a great example of just like sitting on the couch with my dad watching a movie because we love that movie. It's so ridiculous. It's so dumb, but it's got that old school vibe that I like.
Exactly, yeah.
It's ridiculous. I put Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's that's more one I would watch with my mom. So again, like that whole sitting on the couch, watching a movie with the fam. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, we just love that one. It's great. Pulp Fiction, I think that's one that I think needs to be on everyone's list. It's just such a great movie. I'm sure we could spend a whole podcast just talking about that. So
people have, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. And then the last one I put was Rocky, because again, with like the backstory and stuff, I mean, the movie is awesome. It's a great movie, but I just love like the idea of Sylvester Stallone right in the movie. No one wants to play or he couldn't get anyone to play the character. Was it that they couldn't get anyone to play him, or
he wanted to play him?
He wanted to.
That's
it. Yeah, just like having such a strong like vision, like this is me. I got to play this character. Kind of the coming from nothing, just with the script. I just find that so cool. So I'd say those are probably like my top, what is that, 5 or 6 there?
Yeah.
At the moment, subject to change. But those are the movies that, like, when I think of like a movie that really impacts me or, gets me in the film mindset, those are the ones for sure.
I will say that's a W list.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
But I also like how you view movies as kind of like, sometimes when you're making, like, let's say you're making a film, you don't really think of who you're making it for. And I like that you have the perspective of like watching it, on the couch with your parents, like watching, like creating something that'll be impactful to somebody else. I think that's something that filmmakers, studios should always keep in mind when they're making something. So I'm glad you like planted that in my mind. And then I like all the films you brought up, but especially like Pulp Fiction, because Ryan and I were able to catch its 30th anniversary at the new Beverly Cinema.
Dude, that's
Quentin
awesome.
Tarantino's
That was
theater.
one of the things I was trying to do, and I could not get tickets, or when they were available, like I just wasn't around. But yeah, you guys are so lucky that you got to go see that.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, like Quentin Tarantino has a movie theater called the New Beverly Cinema where he plays kind of classic films, and he played, like, if I'm not mistaken, it was his own film print of Pulp Fiction, or one of his film prints of Pulp Fiction. So it's got like the grain where it's a little messy. It's such a cool way to see the film. It's like a perfect way to see the film. So that's something I'll always think of when I think of Pulp Fiction. But I like the selection of films you have, especially like the blend of like the kind of old school like 2001: A Space Odyssey, where it's so like quiet and like meditative and all of that. So I really like just a collection of films you have, and it says a lot about you, like what everyone's list says.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I put definitely a lot of thought into it. I wanted to put some variations in there, but, I think it's true. It's the stuff that I love. And, I definitely agree, or I'm glad that you picked up on the point that film is definitely like, I think for me, it's just like, it's an experience. You know what I mean? So many people like, and there's nothing wrong with analyzing film. That's great. It should be done. But I think sometimes people get a little too technical on certain things. They just try to dive too deep into like, things that aren't about the experience of watching the film. And I think you can make a film that's technically, and this is just my opinion, I'm sure a lot of people are going to disagree. You can make a movie that's like, has some technical issues. But if you can sit down and watch it and just like genuinely enjoy it, I think that's still a great film. I think as long as it connects with you and like gets you in a mood where afterwards you're like, I'm glad I saw that film. Like I had a good time seeing that film. I think that's all that matters, in my opinion.
That's a great point, because like films aren't perfect because like people aren't perfect.
Exactly.
And the world is never perfect. But it's kind of just like how you said, like how it speaks to you. Like sometimes when I've asked people this question, they're like, oh, I have this movie, but people are going to get like mad at me if I say I like this movie. But I'm like, if it speaks to you, it speaks to you. Like There's nothing wrong with that. And that's like the cool thing about art and film. It's just like it can impact you on level. Like when I had Liz Ippolito on here, her and I, who from hashtag of course, her and I talk about this, how like movies can like impact you like subconsciously in a way that like is hard to really put into words, or that's not really intangible. So that's something that like art and movies can do that's really nothing else can.
Yeah, I mean, I love that aspect. Like, honestly, if I see a film and I love it and I don't know why, I think that's like, that just gets me in like a totally different headspace. It's like, wow, I just saw this film and like, obviously there's things I know I like about it, but there's just like a vibe where I'm like, I don't know why, like, what it is about that film that just connected with me, but it just did. So I think just like the mystery about it, you know, like I said, obviously analyzing film is important, but I think kind of just taking a step back sometimes and just being like, that was just a good film and I appreciated that. That's also an important mindset to have.
Definitely, because everything's just about perspective.
Yeah.
So it's about coming to things with that perspective, which is another reason why I appreciated having you on, Liam.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. It's always great interacting, chatting about things like this. Like, I remember when I walked into the media suite and I just saw you there after you came back from LA. I'm like, oh my God, my sweet prince has returned. He's back. I'm like, I couldn't believe it. Was like a sight for sore eyes.
Dude, that's so funny.
I'm glad that we were able to connect again and then get on here and get to kind of share stories about our time in LA.
Definitely.
Of course, yeah.
Back in Connecticut, baby.
Yeah, let's go for a big semester that I'm really excited about.
Awesome.
So yeah, as always, this is Ryan Zicast for the Zicast, where everyone has a story, signing off. Thank you so much for watching.